In this video, we're going to talk about what's called a market value swap. So it's going to take us a little while to get to it, but let's just get right into the example. Beth has a 4-year variable rate loan of $1,000 where the interest rate is reset annually to the 1-year spot interest rate. She pays interest only at the end of each year and repays the principal of $1,000 at the end of year 4. Beth enters into a 4-year interest rate swap with annual settlement, wherein she pays a fixed interest rate and receives the variable rate. At the time the swap is entered into, the swap spot rates are 1-year spot rate is 1%, 2-year spot rate is 2%, and so forth. This is the exact same setup as in the last example video on net swap payments, and you'll see market values of swaps and net swap payments are very closely related. But this is the exact same setup. So let me show you the picture that we had from that video. If you don't remember, go back and look at the video if you need to be reminded of some things. But this is the idea behind this interest rate swap. Beth is going to swap payments that are based off of the forward rates that are shown on the first line in green. She's going to swap payments based off of forward rates that are non-level. I can see they're not going to be the same, not going to be equal to each other by what the term structure of interest rates are, what the spot rates are. I can see the forward rates are not going to be equal to each other. So Beth wants to swap those for payments that are equal to each other, are based off of the same interest rate at least. Okay, so the first thing to do in this problem, though, is to calculate what, let me back up for just 1 second and mention that, let me go back to the problem. It says Beth is paying the fixed interest rate and receiving the variable rate. So that's why I have in green those payments that are based off of the forward rates, the variable forward rates. I have those in green. That's what Beth's going to be receiving, and Beth's going to be paying, so I'll put that in red. She's paying the payments that are based off of the fixed interest rate I. Okay, now the first thing to do here is to calculate what that swap interest rate is, I, what that I value is equal to. There's a nominal, there's a level notional amount of 1,000, so there's a shortcut, but look on the previous video and you'll see that we calculated that, swap interest rate to be about a 3.901% number. So, when you multiply that I, look at the payments in red. They're 1,000 times I. When you multiply 1,000 times that I value in red at the bottom left, you'll get 39.01. So the payments on the top row that are being swapped are all equal to 39.01. Okay, now let's go back to the problem. I haven't asked you anything yet. I just kind of set it up. So now let's move on. Let's say you have some additional information. Let's say 1 year has passed now since Beth entered into the swap. The 1-year spot rate is now 4.5%, the 2-year spot rate is 5.5%, and the 3-year spot rate is 6.5%. So this was my original, this was the timeline when Beth entered into the swap. Now a year has passed, so let me move the valuation date up to time 1. Well, there's several things that are different now at time 1. So, first of all, let me reset the time value. So if you look at time, I'm at time 1 now, but now a year has passed, so I need to reset the time value. So now the time values need to be reset as I have shown now. So now I'm at time 0. And also look at the spot rates and the forward rates. Those spot rates and forward rates were from a year ago. They don't count anymore. I mean, they're old. They don't apply anymore. So I need to strike through all of those spot rates and forward rates. They don't apply. And one other thing that I want to mention about what's on the screen here, the slide here, is that the payments at time, what I have at time 0 now, those have already been made. So those are past payments. I don't need to even think about those anymore. They've already been paid. So that's done. And so now I'm moving on into the into the next phase of the interest rate swap. I don't need those payments anymore. Okay, so now all I'm going to do on the next slide is kind of clean up the timeline by deleting that little place off the edge right there. I just deleted that. Okay, so now let's go back to the problem. Here's the original problem, and I want to kind of pluck out what the new spot rates are. 4.5%, 5.5%, 6.5%. So let's go back to the timeline, plug those in. If you look, I put tildes over the S, over these new S's. Like S tilde sub 1 is 4.5%. So when I see a tilde, I'm thinking of that being the new value. So I don't want to confuse it with what the old 1-year spot rate was. So the new 1-year spot rate is 4.5%, S tilde sub 1. S tilde sub 2, the new 2-year spot rate is 5.5% or 0.055. And S tilde sub 3, the new 3-year spot rate is 0.065. Okay, so that's one observation. Now let's look at the payments at times 1, 2, and 3. Those forward rates were old. Now if you go back and look at the problem, it says that in the first line it says where the interest rate is reset annually to the 1-year spot interest rate. So what I have to do now is use the current term structure of interest rates. So if I look at the payments at times 1, 2, and 3 in green, those are based off of old forward rates. I need to update those with new forward rates. And so that time 1, the payment at time 1 will be 1,000 times the new forward rate from time 0 to time 1. The payment at time 2 would be based off of the new forward rate from time 1 to time 2. So that's the F tilde. And the payment at time 3 is based off of the new forward rate from time from time 2 to time 3. Now the new forward rate from time 0 to time 1, well, look, that's nothing more than the 1-year spot rate. You're going from time 0 to time 1, that's the 1-year spot rate. So the new forward rate from time 0 to time 1 is the new 1-year spot rate. That's 0.045. And so the payment at time 1 is 1,000 times that. So 1,000 times the 0.045 is 45. And then the payment at time 2 is based off the forward rate, the new forward rate from time 1 to time 2. Well, that new forward rate from time 1 to time 2 is given by this. It's based off of the new 2-year spot rate and the new 1-year spot rate. So I'll plug in those new values, and when I do a numeric calculation, I get about a 0.06509. Now the payment at time 2 is 1,000 times that, and so I end up with a $65.09 payment there. And then likewise, the payment at time 3 is based off of the new forward rate from time 2 to time 3. Plug in the new 3-year spot rate, the new 2-year spot rate into your calculation of that new forward rate from time 2 to time 3, and I got about a 0.08528 number that I have to multiply by 1,000 to get the payment at time 3, and so that payment at time 3 is about $85.28. Okay, so now I still hadn't asked the question. Let's go back to this is just kind of the setup. So now we've got the setup here. 1 year has passed, and now the question is determine the current market value for Beth's position in this. So that's the new question now is determine the current market value for Beth's position in the swap. So let's go back to our timeline. This is our timeline. With all the updated information. And now I asked about the market value of a swap. So let me tell you what that is. The market value of a swap is the present value of the future net swap payments using the current term structure of interest rates. You don't want to go back and use the old spot rates. You want to use the updated spot rates. In other words, the 4.5% 1-year spot rate and so forth. Okay, so that's the market value of the swap is going to be the present value of the future. So the future ones would be at times 1, 2, and 3, the future net swap payments. So I need to know what are the new net swap payments. Again, this is very easy though. I mean, look at time 1. At time 1, Beth is going to receive 45 and pay 39.01. So her new, and I'll put a tilde over the net swap payment to represent the new net swap payment at time 1, is the difference between those values, or $5.99. Likewise, the new net swap payment at time 2 would be she's going to receive $65.09 and then pay $39.01, so that difference is $26.08. This is practical. The net swap payment stuff is very practical. At time 2, Beth is not going to tell the receiver, the other person on the transaction, Beth's the payer, excuse me, Beth's not going to tell the receiver, you have to give me $65.09, and then after you do that, I'm going to give you $39.01. That's not how this is going to practically work. You're going to take the difference and look at, and it's going to be 26.08. It's a positive. So from Beth's perspective, Beth's going to say, you just owe me $26.08. So that's the idea of the net swap payment. That was at time 2. And then at time 3, we would go through the same process and see that the net swap payment at time 3 for Beth is $46.27. So now I'm going to take the present value of those payments. I can tell before I even take the present value of those payments. So look at this Beth's position. The interest rates have changed in such a way that it's been very beneficial to Beth. Beth is now getting a payment at every point in time. She doesn't have to make a payment at any of those points in time. So she's in a good position. Interest rates have changed in such a way that Beth's in a good position. And we can capture numerically how good that position is by calculating the market value of the swap at this time. So the market value is going to be the present value of this of these net swap payments. The $5.99 is $5.99 is paid at time 1. The $26.08 is paid at time 2. The $46.27 is paid at time 3. So you have to discount those values using the new discount factor. So I'll put tildes over the V's there. Plug in the numeric values for the V's based on what the new term structure of interest rates are, the new spot values, and you'll get these values, and then go through your calculation and you'll get 67.47. And so in other words, the market value, Beth's position, the market value is 67.47. Now since it's positive, that means that if Beth wants to sell her position, she can sell her position in the swap. Somebody's going to have to pay her $67.47. That's what her position is worth 1 year later. So you'd have to pay that. It's very possible that interest rates might have changed in a way that market value would have been negative. That's not good for Beth. If the market value was negative, from Beth's perspective, then she would end up having to pay someone else to take her position in the swap. But as it is in this particular instance, with the way the numbers worked out here, Beth has something of value, and the value is $67 has something worth $67.47. My one final comment before I close this video is that this is an interest rate swap. Beth is swapping interest payments. She originally, if you look at the problem, sorry I didn't put it up here, but she originally took out a loan of $1,000. This was all based off of a loan of $1,000. All she did was exchange interest payments. So as a final note, Beth is still responsible. Even if she sold her swap, Beth is still responsible for repaying the principal of $1,000 at what is now time 3 on the timeline, what was originally time 4 on the timeline. Okay, so I hope you have a better understanding of interest rate swaps, net swap payments, market value, that sort of thing. All right, we got one more video that I want to talk about with swaps, so I'll see you in the next one.